Playoffs? Hell yeah, we're talking playoffs because the Browns have clinched a playoff spot. So we're going to talk playoff picture, path to the 1 seed, path to the AFC North title, and potential opponents for the Browns in the first round of the 2023 NFL playoffs. But after Thursday night, the Browns have locked in a playoff spot. They joined the Ravens and the Dolphins for securing a playoff spot, and they are pretty much, well, they're guaranteed at least the 5 seed. They cannot go lower than that, but they can go all the way up to the 1 seed. So we're going to talk about what needs to happen for Cleveland to get the 1 seed and what needs to happen for Cleveland to win the AFC North. So let me begin by saying this. If the Ravens win on Sunday, and everyone should be watching that game start to finish, you sit everyone week 18 because the Browns can't go lower than the 5 seed. The Bills can't pass them, and they're the only team within striking distance anyway. So even if the Bills win out and the Browns lose against the Bengals, Buffalo cannot leapfrog Cleveland for the number 5 seed. So if the Ravens win and the Browns cannot get the 1 seed or win the AFC North, then they are stuck at the 5 seed, and I want to see everyone rest week 18. I know there's always that battle of rest versus rust, but this team has been so injury-plagued, one more game might push them over the edge. So, guys, I would like to see sit week 18 if the Ravens lose. Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, Joel Petonio, Wyatt Teller, Ethan Posick, Denzel Ward, anyone that's got any sort of injury at all. Because you've got a lot of guys who might not be injured on the injury report, but we all know Myles Garrett's playing through an injury. We all know Joel Petonio's playing through a back injury. So John Taffer style, shut it down week 18. Now let's talk about a path to winning the AFC North. It's very simple. The Ravens lose out. They lose to the Dolphins, and they lose to the Steelers, and the Browns beat the Bengals in week 18. If all 3 of those things happen, the Browns have their first, sounds crazy to say out loud, their first AFC North title in franchise history. If they can get all 3 of those things have to happen. All 3 of those things by themselves happening are not out of the ordinary. The Ravens could lose to the Dolphins. They lost to the Dolphins the last time they played Miami. Week 2 of last season, a 21-point comeback win for Tua and Tyreek Hill. Lamar Jackson against the Pittsburgh Steelers hasn't been a great movie for Baltimore Ravens fans. The Ravens lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers earlier this season, so it's not out of the question. And Lamar up against the Pittsburgh Steelers has not been his best. Like 145 yards per game, 4 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 2-4 record. So Lamar against Pittsburgh all time, not the best. And then the Browns just need to take down the Bengals. They've got no issue doing that under the Kevin Stefanski era. So all 3 of those things by themselves seem very feasible. But it's like any math formula. The moment you start multiplying it, well, the odds go down. So what's your confidence level in Baltimore losing out? Scale it 1 to 10. 10 being you are from the future and you are here to say that the Ravens are going to drop their next 2 games. 1 being the Ravens are the best team in the NFL right now. They just ass-kicked the 49ers on Christmas night. There's no way they are losing the next 2 games. Let me know down below in the comment section. Now, next up on the show, we're going to talk about the Browns' path to the number 1 seed because it's not too far off from what they need to do to win the AFC North. But first, today's show is sponsored by PrizePicks. Now, if you're not familiar with PrizePicks, let me get you caught up to speed. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. You pick 2 to 6 players and then choose more or less on their projected stats. Now, let me give you an example of what a PrizePicks entries could look like. Take the college football semifinals here. I'm taking the less on Michael Penix's passing yards against the Texas defense. I like the more on Jalen Milroe's passing yards against the team up north, just 205. That seems very reachable for Jalen Milroe. And then finally, Mitchell, the Texas wide receiver. I'm taking the more on him at 0.5 touchdowns against the Huskies. So if you like my selections, go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. That link is in the comments and description of today's video. Now, let's talk about a path to the number 1 seed. The Browns win out, which is just one game. The Ravens lose out, which is the same for winning the AFC North. And the Dolphins lose Week 18. So the Dolphins actually can't lose out, because if the Dolphins lose out, that means the Ravens don't lose out, because they play each other on Sunday. So we need Miami to win Week 17, but then lose in Week 18. So now we got an idea of what it takes, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 things that need to happen for the Cleveland Browns to have the AFC run through the shores of Lake Erie. It doesn't seem like it is astronomically impossible, right? Again, it's the same for winning the AFC North, where by itself, one by one, I think we can all agree these things could happen. But when you add in another wrinkle, which is the Dolphins losing Week 18 to Buffalo, well, that makes things a bit more complicated. So let's talk about what Miami and Buffalo, what they've been up to the last couple of weeks as they head into a very pivotal stretch here, because the Bills actually have an opportunity to jump Miami and win the AFC East if Buffalo wins out and the Dolphins lose out, because the Bills would have the head-to-head tiebreaker over Miami. Now, Miami comes in off 2 straight wins after an all-time disaster loss to the Titans in Week 14, whereas the Bills, they are coming off 3 straight wins, and you can almost call it 3.5 if you want to go hockey style, against the Philadelphia Eagles, losing in overtime. But the Chargers, they beat them 24-22. They beat the Cowboys 31-10. So if we're looking at this through the lens of we need Buffalo to beat Miami, and we need Miami to beat the Ravens first, it's not out of the realm of possibility that the Dolphins take down the Ravens like they did the last time they faced off each other last season early in 2022. And then the Bills knock off the Miami Dolphins, which they have had no problem doing for quite some time. I mean, first off, they come in hot, but the Bills-Dolphins just all time, Buffalo has won 9 out of their last 10 games. They have dominated this one-sided rivalry. It has not been close in any stretch. The Bills have completely beat up the Miami Dolphins year after year after year. And the Browns have an opportunity to jump all the way to the number 1 seed if the Bills take care of business in Week 18, and if the Dolphins take care of business in Week 17 against the Ravens, and the Ravens lose to the Steelers, and the Browns beat the Bengals. Did you get that all? Write it down. Don't forget. Now, let's say the Browns finish with the number 5 seed. I don't think this is something that would be out of the realm of possibilities here. The Browns cannot go lower than the number 5 seed. So if they finish with the number 5 seed, because the Ravens just win 1 game, for example, well, who could the Browns potentially face? We'll fix that next graphic in a moment here, because it's not the Dolphins there. But the AFC South is a bit of a clusterfuck, for a lack of a better term, because it is a hodgepodge of teams of 8-7, 8-7, 8-7, right? The Jags, the Colts, and the Texans all tied at 8-7, and the Titans are completely out of it. So Jacksonville, Indianapolis, and Houston all tied at 8-7, and so it's really anyone's division for the next 2 weeks here. So let's talk about these 3 remaining teams. The remaining schedule for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Week 17 against the Panthers, 2-13 Carolina. Jacksonville without Trevor Lawrence on Sunday. That very well could be a win, even with C.J. Beathard. And honestly, the Jags might have a better chance without Trevor Lawrence based on the way he has played the last couple of weeks, okay? Then you got the Indianapolis Colts after that. The Colts, they have the Raiders at home, and then they have the Texans coming to town. So that Week 18 Texans game, that very well may be for the AFC South if Jacksonville loses on Sunday and both the Colts and the Texans win on Sunday. The Colts, if they beat the Raiders, and if the Texans take down the Tennessee Titans, that will be a winner-take-all Week 18 game right there. So it's going to be very close coming down the AFC South, but it's very likely the Browns, if they get the 5 seed, they're going to absolutely face the number 5 seed unless the Kansas City Chiefs, I beg your pardon, face number 4 seed, which would be the AFC South champion, which unless the Kansas City Chiefs were to lose out, and they could fall to the 4 seed, but I don't see the Chiefs losing out. So, with all that being said, who do I think the Browns are going to face? I think it's going to be the Jags. I think giving Trevor Lawrence a week off is actually a really good thing for Jacksonville. Lawrence is kind of broken right now. So, get him healthy. He's been battling through a bunch of injuries. Get T-Law healthy against the Carolina Panthers with C.J. Beathard. That's a good week for him to miss. And then they round out the year against the Tennessee Titans. If the Colts and the Texans both lose on Sunday, then the Jags go into Week 18 knowing one of those two teams is going to lose again. So there's no chance all three of these teams could win out. Only one team can guarantee to win out, and that is the Jacksonville Jaguars, since they don't play one of those two teams in the remaining 2 games, essentially. Now, before we get on to the rest of today's show, I do want to highlight an awesome super thanks we had come in from a longtime viewer of the channel, which is Sal Butera. So, Sal, thank you so much for your super thanks. I cannot thank you enough for supporting the channel. Sal has been rocking and rolling with us for a long time now. So, Sal, thank you so much. You are the man. You're the myth. You're the legend. I appreciate all of your very generous contributions in supporting the channel. Make sure to subscribe if you love the Cleveland Browns. We're going to keep you guys locked in all season long for the best Browns news and rumors content in all the land.